Hello all and welcome to another episode of Social Psychology Explained. Today we're going to look at Spousal Emotional Support and Relationship Quality Buffers Pupillary Response to Horror Movies by Graff, Fitzgerald, Luke, and Birmingham. It was published in the February 2022 issue of PLOS One. If you'd like to read the article for yourself, check the description down below for a citation and link. But before we get into the article, my script is telling me to remind you, kind viewer, that if you like this channel and want to see it grow, you can help do so by liking and sharing this video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment down below. Praise to the algorithm gnomes. While we often discuss stress in our day-to-day lives, it's actually a tricky construct to define. In a biopsychological sense, we tend to describe a stressor as anything physical or psychological that puts a strain on an individual's adaptive capacities. While an acute stressor every now and then doesn't pose any health risks, chronic stress or even repeated acute stress can result in any number of negative health outcomes, ranging from increased susceptibility to disease to longer recovery times post-surgery to an increased risk of heart attack and stroke. There's a lot of technical research on this, but the short version is that our stress response, including symptoms such as increased blood pressure and pupil dilation, is great at dealing with immediate dangers, but it puts a lot of wear and tear on our body when it's deployed over and over again. In a typical case of psychology research confirming the obvious, social support is great at protecting people from the negative outcomes associated with stress. However, the exact causal mechanisms for this association have yet to be fully teased out. One such potential mechanism is conveyed emotional support, which the authors define as being seen as soothing, comforting, consoling, and a source of help during life's challenges, communicating warmth, caring, and acceptance. Conveyed emotional support can also include nonverbal behaviors such as hand-holding and hugging. And, under the stress buffering model, conveyed emotional support is particularly important during times of stress, and a few studies have even found that even imagined social support can inhibit the stress response. So then, perhaps these effects might be magnified when the support is coming from someone important to the subject, like the romantic partner. For instance, numerous studies have found that married individuals have on average better mental and physical health than non-married individuals. However, for people to see these benefits, the relationships have to be good quality. Now, there are a few different models of relational quality, but the one Graff et al. Used in this paper is a two-dimensional model of strain and support. A high-quality marriage will have a lot of support and not much strain, and a low-quality marriage will have the opposite. It is of course possible to have a lot of support and a lot of strain, and those couples are described as having ambivalent marital quality. Unsurprisingly, those with ambivalent quality show poorer outcomes than those with high quality. With all of this in mind, the authors devised a rather clever experiment to test whether conveyed social support could mitigate an induced stress response. They had participants watch clips of horror films or neutral clips with either their partner holding their hand or alone. The authors used digital flyers on social media and physical flyers around a college campus in the surrounding county to recruit 83 couples who were at least 21 years of age and had been married at least 2 years. Based on Graff et al.'s pre-registration, they wanted to recruit 17 more couples for a total of 200 participants, but they had to cut their recruitment short due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. Unfortunately, I could not determine whether that initial recruitment goal was based on a power analysis, but I do commend the authors for pre-registering their study and their planned analyses. The authors did not list the gender makeup of the couples, so I'm not sure if any gay or lesbian couples were included, but based on the way they described their procedure, I don't think there were any. Make of that what you will. Upon providing consent, the participants completed the pre-manipulation survey, which included the Social Relationships Index, which is a bidimensional measure that assesses relationship quality on the positive and negative aspects. The Spielberger State Trait Anxiety Inventory, minus all the trait anxiety items, so that only state anxiety was measured. And a number of single-item measures assessing the participants' perceptions of the experiment. In the support condition, participants came to the lab as a couple, while in the no support condition, they came individually. Once they got to the experiment room, their blood pressures were measured, and they were set up in front of a computer screen with an attached pupillometer. In the support condition, the clip-watching participant's partner sat across the desk from them and could not see the screen. I'm guessing that they did not have the technology to measure both partners' pupils at the same time. Participants were shown clips ranging from 31 seconds to 78 seconds. Clips from I Know What You Did Last Summer and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer were used to elicit horror responses, and clips from Alaska's Wild Denali were used to elicit neutral responses. This manipulation has been shown to be valid in prior research. Between the clips, participants were shown a fixation cross on a gray screen. This lasted for 1 second to get a baseline pupil reading. The clips were broken into 2 segments with order randomization tailored to ensure both segments were the same length. Post-manipulation, participants completed a survey containing all of the pre-manipulation measures and a measure of how frequently they watch horror movies in their day-to-day life. This last question was likely a CYA in case peer reviewers ragged them about potential confounds. The authors thankfully pre-registered their hypotheses and statistical analysis plan, so hooray for that. If you want to read the details of said pre-registration, a link to the paper is in the description down below. And now results. As to the single item measures, very few participants had seen the horror clips before, and only a quarter watched horror movies regularly. 2/3 of the participants in the supportive condition consciously felt that the hand-holding was supportive. And participants didn't seem to anticipate the clips as being particularly scary, nor did they find them that scary. This chart is my own creation based on information provided in the paper, and error bars represent 95% confidence intervals of the mean. However, participants' pre-state anxiety only differed from their post-state anxiety in the non-support condition. The heart reactivity results didn't show any consistent pattern. On to the pupil analyses. I should warn you that any live-tracked biological measure is going to be super noisy, so I'm going to heavily summarize. With that in mind, here we go. This is a graph of pupil size over the course of the manipulation for couples with ambivalent relationship quality. We can see that the horror clips elicited greater pupil dilation compared to the control clips, and that for individuals in the supportive condition, pupil dilation was less compared to the non-supportive condition. We see a similar pattern when looking at the couples with supportive relationship quality, though pupil dilation was less for the horror clips and slightly more for the control clips compared to those with ambivalent relationship quality. Now in this chart, the bars are how much bigger the participants' pupils were during the horror clips compared to the control clips. It's basically a summary of the last 2 charts I showed you. Unfortunately, I was not able to determine what the error bars represent, so based on the statistical analyses the authors performed, I can tell you that the hand-holding was effective in reducing pupil dilation, and this was especially the case for couples with supportive relationship quality. In addition to analyzing pupil size over the course of the whole manipulation, they conducted phasic analyses looking at pupil size at each individual time point during the manipulation. The results from these analyses mirrored those I just presented, but they did not find a 3-way interaction of time, condition, and relationship quality, so the benefits of spousal relationship quality might only help broadly, not so much in the moment. So what do we take from all of this? Basically, hand-holding seems to reduce the stress response when watching horror movies. This finding could potentially extend more broadly to physical support helping people deal with stressful events in day-to-day life, but we'll need some more ecological studies to determine that for certain. However, there is a major confound. The authors did not include a condition in which the participant's partner was present, but not holding the participant's hand. It could be that just having one's partner present is enough to buffer against the worst of the stress response. We don't know from this paper. I should also discuss the fact that the heart reactivity measures didn't really track with the pupil dilation measures. There's definitely some talk among stress researchers that the different biological indicators of the stress response might be indicating different aspects of this multifaceted phenomenon. While they all correlate with an individual's perceived stress, they don't always correlate well with each other. It could also be that since the study wasn't designed to fully capture heart reactivity, it wasn't sensitive enough to detect any effects therein. So going forward, I definitely want to see more ecological studies examining this issue, perhaps even a daily diary study. I have read a paper or 2 that have found positive effects of sex on mood and psychological health, but I do not know of any looking at less extreme forms of physical support such as hand-holding or hugging. I also want to see some more lab experiments in which both partners watch clips and have their stress response measured at the same time, and an experiment where we can compare hand-holding to just having the partner present. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and if you've got a paper you'd like me to dissect next, or more thoughts on this one, let me know in the comments.